Hello, this is Dr. Melida Barrow, founder and CEO of the 6th Region Global Chamber of Commerce. I'm here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and we are getting ready to have an awesome conversation with my sister here next to me. She also flew in for Africa Celebrates 2024, and I know you had a good time, and we're going to go into many things that happened here, but we're going to focus on why you came.
Okay.
Introduce yourself.
So my name is Dr. Ife Akinsheye Damon, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Community-Based Education Movement. And so I attended Africa Celebrates 2024 because I was invited by the organizer, Lexi Mojo. I
Yes.
met him just a few months prior in Atlanta at another conference, and I shared what I'm doing around transforming education, and he invited me to come to the conference and be a speaker.
I was at that conference.
Yes.
In Atlanta.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, I wish
I was there.
We probably saw each other. We
Yeah,
probably smiled at each other and everything.
I was right there.
Wow.
It was very big. It was a large
huge.
event.
Yes.
Yes. And that is why we need to start going to different events.
Yes.
You know, learning, and this event here at Africa Celebrates was wonderful. And I want you to talk about you first. I want you to talk about, you know, the things that you are doing, the things that you are as an educator.
Yes.
I want Africa to know
Okay.
the things that you have done, the things that you are doing, and the things that you might want to do here in Africa. Go ahead.
Okay. So I want to first start just by saying that I'm a mom of 4, very proud mother of 4, and a grandmother of 2. So my children, particularly my older children, were my inspiration to even become an educator. Before education,
Yes.
I was an accountant.
Oh, okay.
But it was boring, and I just felt like
You wanted
I was
more.
called to do something more meaningful,
Yes,
and education made sense. And so I became an educator over 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah, and I've taught or led from every level, from preschool to grad school and every level in between. So I've done a baby room, pre-K. I've done. I was a school
That's
administrator.
your passion, then. Is this your passion?
Education is absolutely
Yeah,
my passion.
yes.
Yes, and so, you know, and I've also taught all of the core subjects over these 20 years. And so what I've learned is that regardless of the subject, regardless of the grade level, when the learning is connected to students' real lives, that's when they're more engaged in the content.
Yes.
That's when it makes more sense to them. They do better on tests, and they remember the information longer. And so for me, community-based learning over time became something that inspired me in the classroom, you know, inspired me as an educator. And so in 2022, I completed my doctoral research on community-based learning, and I wanted to find out why isn't it happening. So let me just back up a little and share what community-based learning is.
Yes.
So community-based learning is all about bringing the community and the classroom together. It's important because the community is a missing element in the classroom. Teachers are expected to be everything for students, and it's unreasonable. Teachers are burned out, and they just can't do it all, you know?
Yes.
And
that happens a lot in the U.S., and I think everywhere.
Yeah. And I remember one day I was asking, just saying to myself, like, how can the role of the teacher be reduced? And the next thought in my mind was the community. And, you know, it's a very traditional approach. It takes a village to raise a child, you know, but in America, we don't do that. We don't include the community. And so for me, that is the important piece of bringing the community into the classroom. But then also, I believe it takes a child to raise a village.
That's right.
And what that means is that children are an untapped resource that's needed in the community. And for me, yes, there are service learning projects that students may do in after-school programs and things like that, but it's not connected to the classroom.
Exactly.
And that's where you get the most students. You may get a few students that go into these other enrichment programs. but oftentimes they're kind of already on their way anyway.
That's true.
But for me, I'm a special education teacher by trade, so I've always worked with the students who struggle the most.
The special education.
Yes.
Let me ask you, I want to talk to you about that.
Yes.
Because there's so many students in America that in reality don't need to be in special education.
So, yeah.
Can you talk about that?
There is
that
definitely, I'll specifically speak about black children and black, because there's a disproportionality, specifically black boys are placed into special education at a disproportionate rate compared to any other demographic of students. And a lot of times that's due to a misunderstanding of black children, of black culture, of black boy energy.
Different cultures,
you know, of the energy. And so, again, when you're using that traditional approach to teaching and learning where students have to be passive, that is not a model that works well for young black boys who are full of energy and need a model that is something that's more culturally relevant.
Yes.
You know, and so instead of meeting them where they are, they just place them in special education.
Right.
So that's something that has definitely happened, and I've seen it, happen.
Exactly.
For decades.
The reason I'm asking about that is because there is a lot of young people today and years ago that were put in those special education because they were very active,
Yep.
And I felt like you cannot judge a child by being active educationally. Some kids, would say, would go play and more aggressive than the other. That's no reason for education system to put them into a category and then not give them the proper education that they should receive.
Right.
You're just judging them by the way they are, by their activity. And then you notice also that when they grow older, that disappears, because in reality, it wasn't that.
Right, exactly.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But they are already damaged because a lot of times they give the children, what's that medication? Ritalin.
Mm-hmm.
That does the damage.
Yes.
The Ritalin.
Yes.
Because I've watched young people, they gave them that medication and they became what they thought they were.
Right. Yes.
So these things are still happening. Is this still happening with Ritalin? Are they still
I'm not exactly sure if they're still giving Ritalin or if they've done studies to say that it's not the best choice. But I do know that there definitely is medication that some students are still given.
Yes.
Not all students for sure, but there are some students that utilize medication.
Right.
But I do feel like there can be alternatives to
Alternative.
that.
Because that's what they want. That's why I know about it, because that's what they wanted to do with my son. Mm-hmm. They wanted to put him on Ritalin, and so you know what I did?
What?
I took my son every morning before going to school. I took him to the park.
Nice.
And I let him play, and I let him be active, because that's how he was.
Yep.
And he never had to use Ritalin. He never had to go through mothers that are out there that when they're telling you there's something wrong with your child, you do the investigation.
Yes.
Not let them come and tell you just like that there's something wrong with him. She's not speaking more often. Well, everybody's different.
And that's the
Everybody has their own personality.
Right.
So I do believe in here in Africa, if this is happening, because I'm not sure, you have to take the time out with your children and figure out what is wrong.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that there's something mentally wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Yes. As you as a teacher, you have witnessed that, I'm sure.
Yes. And I'll even say what I learned also was the boys who were labeled as like emotionally, behaviorally disturbed were usually the geniuses in my class. They were usually the ones with the highest intelligence.
Yes.
And so it really was a matter of teaching them how to have self-control,
Yes.
but also learning how to help them to burn that
That's
energy.
right.
Like
That
you
energy,
said.
yes.
My youngest son actually goes to an all-boys school that's focused on black and brown students. It's called Eagle Academy in New York City. They have
Wow.
multiple schools
Yes.
throughout New York City. And I love that school because they understand that. So
That's
they know
right.
how to engage with black boy energy. They know how to make the learning more kinesthetic
That's
and tactile.
right. That's
so
right.
that they're more, using their full body in the
Yes.
learning experience. And so I do think that it's important for education to meet the child where they are instead of saying, hey, I'm going to be right here and you need to figure it out. Yeah,
there.
get to me, One of my favorite phrases that I like to think about is, teachers in the education system is usually like they ask students or they have the mindset of, oh, well, how smart are you? But for me, what teachers should be asking is, how are you smart? So it's the same word,
nice.
right? But it's completely
Nice.
different because every child comes to school with funds of knowledge. They all
Right.
are geniuses in different ways.
That's right.
But it's a matter of teachers being investigators
That's
of their
right.
students in order to be able to discover in what way is that child
I got
a genius.
I
And then
got
you can
you.
leverage that intelligence
That's
to
right.
help develop those weaknesses and those areas of need that they have. So for me, with community-based education, the focus is on making that connection with the community because the community members can do things like that as well.
Yes.
By building relationships with students, understanding you can connect students with community partners who have similar interests. Like if the student maybe is a black male and they're interested, maybe they're very creative with their hands, or
Right.
even I'll think of, as a mom, I'll talk about my own children, like
Yes.
my sons that have been, those boys who tear their stuff up.
Yes.
But I always said it's reverse engineering. They want to see how things are, what are the elements that put it together, And so as a parent, you can be frustrated, like, oh, they're just always tearing stuff up. Or you can say they're actually
That's
interested in
interesting.
engineering. And so if you can bring in a black male engineer from the community and have them do some sort of project where they're looking at an issue, let's bring it to Africa,
Yes.
make it a little more broad.
Yes.
So in Africa, we know that continentally, one of the major or two major issues are water, access to clean water,
Yes.
and electricity, right?
Yes.
And so students can be paired with some experts in the industry and come up with ways in order to be able to address how to improve the water system, how to improve the electricity
That's
system.
right.
We were in that AI session together.
Yes,
and so we saw how amazing those young people at Africa celebrates in the AI session. They were talking about how they're using AI to even learn more about AI and how they can elevate, and it just increase their education and improve conditions. And
Yes.
so we can have experts from the community who already are well versed in AI, or even those college students work with students at the middle school level or the high school level or elementary school level, and they say, let's form a think tank and think about how can we address this continent-wide issue of a lack of water. How can we use AI to help us? How can we collaborate with children from other nations on the continent to have this big, like there can be a competition, like the clean water competition. Like I get excited when I talk about
excited because it's such, you're talking about it, and I'm thinking we need to do that.
I want to. These are the types of things that I want to do.
We need to talk about it with the 6th Region Global Chamber of Commerce, because those are the things that we do. You have a something that you want to do.
Yes.
We can make it happen.
Okay then.
We can make it happen. We can work together. We can work even with the children here in Africa.
Yes, and that's what
and different places.
Right, because
different places.
Students, like last year I had students in New York City. They engaged in a community advocacy project. You heard me talk about it at the in the session, where they had to identify an issue that negatively impacts their communities, research the issue, and then take real action toward change. Some of those students addressed global issues. Some of them addressed issues that affected them locally, but there were kids who also cared about issues that impact children on a, communities on a global scale. And then there were even some that were focused on issues that didn't even have to necessarily impact them, but impacted others.
Exactly.
And so even in diaspora, we can have students, they can be a part of that competition, but even though it's focused on Africa, we can get kids to be galvanized. Right, because it's really a global issue. If we continue to let Africa be mistreated, represented, still colonialized in so many ways, taken advantage of all of the resources, it doesn't make any sense that the most resource-rich continent is the poorest continent. And so, and I understand the dynamic, right? Exactly.
Africa, you're not poor. Stop saying you are poor. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Keep talking.
Yes. So, it's important for young people to become a part of this process, because we know, those who were here this week at the Africa Celebrates Conference knows that if Africa elevates, the entire world is going to elevate.
That's right.
And the world is waiting on Africa to elevate.
That's right.
I was raised Pan-African, and so this is the mindset that I'm a Kwanzaa girl. And so my parents, they would always say, my dad would say, you have to get yourself together, then your family, then your community, then your nation, your globe, specifically on
you have been through all those processes.
Yes, I am, and now here on the global stage, and honored. My parents are ancestors now, but they're with me all the time, and I'm always hearing them. They continue
keep moving.
Yes, they're continuing to push me.
I love what you're saying, because I want to interject in the part of the education. I don't think the young people in Africa are happy about their education. I've spoken to quite a lot of youth. They're not happy with their education, because what they are receiving is colonialized. They've been colonialized, and that's the education that they're getting. They're still talking about the colonialization. It's just like in my country. It's just like the U.S.
That's what I was going to say.
We are still being educated, but guess what? It's over.
It is.
It's done.
Yes.
Because Africans and the world now know what happened. You wanted to control our minds. You wanted to destroy us based on education. You see all the things that she's saying, all the ideas that she has, that indicates that's a Pan-Africanist. And she's ready to make those changes. We are ready to make those changes, and we're going to make those changes. And the only way to make these changes is what you're saying, is you are bringing something to us in Africa, in the Caribbean, and so on. So there's nothing that we cannot do. You don't need to ask permission to anyone. Just do it. That's how I live my life. When I started the 6th Region Global Chamber of Commerce, I didn't go to the African Union and ask permission. I started it because it's going to help us. It's going to benefit our children, our women, our society, our community, because it has to be done. So it's not something that you need to ask permission. Let's sit down, let's talk, and see how we can put it together. Because in society, we feel that somebody has to nominate you to do something. And another thing, you need a title in order to do something. That's not true. It is not true. This is not about the title. This is about the passion. That you have, that God has given you to build and create. If you continue to wait to get a degree, you see, the only reason we're getting this degree is to prove to somebody that we did this study. But this is a money-making machine.
It is definitely a money-making machine. Absolutely.
Because
big money.
before you go, you already know.
Right, because I had been, I've been advocating for community-based learning for quite some time, but people didn't start paying attention until I got those 2 letters in front of my name, But it was also important for me to do that research. But I could have done that research without a doctoral,
To be an artist.
And I knew the answers anyway.
Exactly. To be an artist, painting. Did you have to go get a college degree and then become an artist?
Right.
No.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly.
You are
I've
the
been
artist.
an educator. Right.
Exactly. You are the artist before you go and get that college degree to be an artist.
Yes.
You already know it.
Yep.
You understand?
Yes.
So don't let things hold you back. Keep going. Do it. Because I've done so many things in my life. I had a trucking business, real estate. I mean, just I'm an author. I never knew I could do that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Everybody keeps saying, Dr. Barrow, you got a book? Dr. Barrow, you got a book? Do you have a book? And I said, you know what? Let me write a book.
Yes.
And I wrote a book.
Yes.
Voila, it's on Amazon.
Yes.
It's called Unveiling the Illusion, Know Who You Are.
Yes, I love that.
Do not wait that you have to go and do something in order to acquire something else. Just be you.
Yes. And
Just be you, my sister.
Right, and that's what I feel like I'm following the path that is right for me.
Yes.
And I know it's very audacious to start a movement, but I knew that a movement is exactly what I needed to start.
Yes.
Because this is to transform education in the way that I envision.
Yes.
It's not something that's just going to happen overnight. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I knew also that I have a global mindset. And so I want this to be, I wanted it to be a global movement. As you were saying earlier, in education, when it's so colonialized and it's focused on, as a teacher, I've always been a radical teacher.
Yes.
Throughout all of my years.
Are you still a teacher? They didn't throw you out? Because they throw me out. When I get invited at churches or something like that, that's my one-time do. Because after that, we can't invite Dr. Barrow no more.
Yeah.
She's too radical. It's not that I'm radical, I'm telling the truth. But they don't want me there.
Yeah.
Because when you speak truth, that's it.
Yeah.
So you need to continue what you're doing.
Thank you. Yes. I definitely plan to, because I know that the system is not working. The truth is, it never has for everyone. It did for me. I'm academically inclined. I always have been as a child. So it worked out for me. But even for my brothers, I saw they were also intellects, but also the schools tried to place them in special education.
Yes.
Had it not been for my father, who said, not only will you not put them in special education, you're going to put them in the honors classes, just like their sisters, then they would have been in special ed and had that trajectory. But imagine how many kids don't have a father like mine to advocate for them, and they just end up in special education anyway.
That's right.
Especially with the incentive of, you can get a disability check for your child if they get that. So there's a lot of factors that that need to be explored, and these are things that students can explore as a part of community-based education, and they can collaborate with experts in the industry. And also, it's about, again, taking action. So it's not just about research, but it's about what are you doing with that, because that's a missing element in school, is how are we making this real?
Yes.
We're just letting students be passive learners. We're just letting them, it's like the model is, the teachers, this is what I know. Now, I'm going to tell you what I know, then show me that you know what I want you to tell me you know. That's, who is that really serving? No one. It's not a sustainable model. We have to think about sustainability in every category, not just the environment, but we have to think about sustainability in education. And so for me, community-based education is a sustainable model.
That's good.
Yeah.
I am so proud of you.
Thank you so much.
I really am. That the things that, and there's so many people in America that are doing great things.
Yes.
But we don't hear about it. Africa don't hear about the great things that is happening in the U.S. All they hear about